On once again. Oh yeah, we have the maybe have the slides. Don't forget, there's food at the back. There are no breaks in the program, so make sure that you take advantage of the food, coffee, also outside. So great. We've been hearing a lot about embedded finance all day. We were hearing just there about the consumer end of the market, super apps, and the opportunities and the challenges in this region. We're now going to look at the commercial, the B2B side of embedded finance, payments, and digital transformation. Let's welcome back now Arjun Singh from AD Little. Arjun, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So, everybody, please take a seat. All of you back there. We're gonna switch a little bit away from embedded finance. We're gonna generally talk about the topic of innovation. And actually, we had a huddle out there in terms of the word innovation, and we realized actually innovation's been around before Hemant was around, and that's pretty long time. But with that, Hemant, please come on board, and I guess the rest of you, please join us. And actually, we have quite an amazing group. We have someone from Kazakhstan, we've got Ritesh, who's flown in from the UK. Victoria's based here, but she's from Mexico. So we got a great bunch of people here. So with that, I'll sort of kick off. But I think it'll be best if you guys all take like 10 seconds or 15 seconds and quickly introduce yourselves. All your mug shots are right back there. So if you could just quickly introduce yourselves. Mics have to be switched on.
Hi everyone, myself Deekshith Marla. I'm the founder and CTO of Arya.ai. I come from India. Hi guys, I'm Deekshith Marla. I'm the founder and CTO of Arya.ai. I represent the whole India and the Middle East area for the business part of it.
Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ritesh Jain. I'm a founder at Infynit as well as a member advisor at G20 GPFI, a former CEO HSBC, and led the future of payments at Visa. Thank you.
Hi, hello. My name is Victoria. I'm Partnership Director for DKK Partners. I'm based in Dubai. My background is technology and finance. And yeah.
Hi everyone. My name is Hemant Patel, and I'm part of the only banker on this panel. I'm the only banker on this panel, primarily within the wholesale banking, and have covered the region extensively over the many years, and now fundamental for the bank in its transformation program.
Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Beibut Zhanturin. I'm CFA holder. I'm co-founder and CEO of Prosper Pay company, earned wage access service provider in Kazakhstan. Thank you for invitation. I'm very happy to be here with such highly professional panelists. Thank you very much. I highly appreciate it.
Welcome, Beibut. Welcome. So it's only right, Victoria, that we start with you, right? And I think it's only right if we actually try and contextualize what does innovation mean to you, right? And if you could sort of bring it to life by saying, how does it manifest itself, right? An example would be great. So we'll start with you.
Okay. For me, innovation is a process of generating new ideas, new processes, new services. But it goes beyond mere creativity. It also aims to solve problems. There are certain aspects that contribute to the continued growth for innovation. So one is evolution. So it's not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. Also adaptability. We can see, for example, JP Morgan Onyx is implementing and exploring blockchain technologies to improve the cross-border payments. I believe innovation is important, but it's not crucial. It's not the silver bullet for gaining competitive edge. I believe we can, for example, Coca-Cola over the years has introduced different beverage new products, but the core product is still Coca-Cola. So that means that it's customer-centric. So it's not all about innovation.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to come, Ritesh. I'm just going to come to a question. It's a bit loaded out here, right? So two-part question, but it's completely related. Victoria just said it's not a silver bullet. My question, I'll take it a bit further. Should we even be talking about innovation in today's day and time?
Not really. In the sense of innovation, when we talk about, it's same like we are talking about the digital, right? We have been digital for over 50 years or a lot more than that, right? It's just the extent of it has changed. Now it's people would like to say it innovation, but at the same time they would like to add it with the disruption. So I would say like innovation doesn't need to be disruptive as well. So you can have a simple innovation, and that innovation could be your technological transformation, that could be customer-centric, or you can just improve your processes, right? The best example I would say, like, let's talk about the customer onboarding in banking. Right? It used to take, on the digital channel, with the innovative digital channel, it could take up to 25 to 30 steps for onboarding customer. But now we have innovated ourselves over the period of time. A customer can be onboarded into 5 to 7 steps. And that's what I call innovation. So let's stop calling and glamorizing it. We really don't need to go after that. We are constantly evolving, and that's what we are calling innovation. That's what.
All right, so it defaults itself.
I
DM,
mean,
let me come
even
to
if
you.
you talk about the customer onboarding, right? There are lots of players who do a lot of innovation only on this aspect. But adding to it, right, you can also add a much better layer, not just only from the extraction point of view, what the KYC has been done. Or people do a lot of passive liveness right now, where just adding a selfie itself, right from at your home itself, can open an account itself. That's the kind of innovation which we are right now driving. When the COVID hit, nobody has ever thought how can we actually come to or how do we evolve from the COVID when the bank branches were closed out. That's where every entrepreneur or every startup started thinking more of how to do an innovation. That's where I think when the pain hits us, right, we always get the problem and we start solving those things. That's the kind of innovation everyone drives.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot on that, right? So that's all great, right? But this just sounds like, oh, we responded to a problem that got created, right? So give me an example, right? You're the technologist among the six of us, right? Tell me, where have you seen good evidence at scale where proactive innovation has led to competitive advantage?
I'll just explain you about the recent product which we have launched for both the banks and insurance companies. Where you talk about the banks, right? Most of the things are majorly dependent on the customer relationship problems. Because earlier the banker used to know who the customer is, or even their families also, right? Like if I go to the bank and he'll greet me with Deekshith, come on, how are you doing, etc. Now I think with the expansion of the growth of the bank industry, that kind of a personal touch is totally missing it out. It's like I have to explain myself, what kind of a person I am, how long I've been doing the business with you guys. So that is where the whole lack of missing out thing. That's where we have introduced a product which does, like when you walk into a bank branch, right, it just scans your face automatically with the CC cameras. It just gives an alert to the bank manager or the representative who's there with a profile of the customer, with what kind of a products you can be curated to him. And that gives a total idea for the representative to pitch to the customer, or probably if at all I say, hi Arjun, how are you doing today? Of course, you have come up with a you wanted a new credit card, right? We have recently launched only for you that this kind of a credit card which you can travel all over the world where no transaction cost will happening. This gives you the edge for the other people what you can do with the bank. That's exactly what we did for the banking industry. And whereas for the small like kind of insurance industry also, right, we launched the whole claims automation processes where people go to the hospitals and put up a claim, and that claim actually would take a doctor to analyze all your documents, understand, and then hardly like 4 to 5 hours for the doctor to revisit all your existing diseases, what policy and all. Whole thing has been automated right now and been implemented in most of the insurance companies. Within a 20 seconds, we give a prediction there saying whether the claim has to be accepted or not, even what kind of an amount has to be adjusted. This gives you an edge where all the competitors are still doing a digitalization. That's an again innovation here. But for us, the AI which comes into the layer where you're suggesting the doctor whether the claim has to be accepted or not, or here whether the bank manager would give a decision whether the particular curated kind of a credit card or a loan, whatever can be easy, all right? That's kind of an innovation which we are trying to do.
Well, thanks for opening the door on the bank. So I've got now Hemant on it. Hemant, a decade ago, if you use the word innovation and bank in the same sentence, you'd have people rolling over in laughter, right? Okay. Let me add some more dimensions to it, right? My humble opinion, banks were created by regulators to help with their monetary policies. They were not created for or by customers, right? How do banks, and I'm sorry, I'm just taking a bit of a take on the banks. I do appreciate you guys are heavily regulated, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You have a responsibility of security and risk towards customers who have put their lifetime savings and actually depend on banks for their livelihoods in a number of ways. How do you, in an environment, an historical legacy such as that, and a mindset which is quite deeply engendered, right, balance innovation versus regulation, risk, security?
Right. So I think the first real question is, what is innovation, right? When we look at banking, it's particularly wholesale banking, the products are the same. The underlying products are all the same. So what's actually happening is your packaging, right, in different ways, and what you're actually improving is the service delivery, right? So innovation is happening in the service delivery of what you actually receive from the bank and how quickly you can engage with the bank. Yep. As a bank, the key thing that is driving, or sometimes people say banks don't move, is because of the areas that Arjun you mentioned, the regulators, right, the compliance, and more importantly, operational risk, right, which doesn't allow us to move forward. I think some of the innovation that's coming out of the fintech, it's fantastic. How quickly can you embrace and adopt has been the biggest challenge. And as you all know, I think with most banks, their infrastructure has been the challenge. At Investbank, what we've done is actually start on the reverse side. We've had the opportunity to actually re-engineer our whole technology starting from the core banking platform, which many banks have been struggling to do. So our journey just started over a year ago, and we hope that we'll be going live with the core banking within a year, which will then open up new ideas and new innovations of how we can interact. And to be able to work with not just one fintech, but in a SaaS environment, work with any fintech that the individual likes.
Thank you. Beibut, welcome. So tell us a little bit about your business. So from what I understand, you're an earned wage access player out of Kazakhstan, right? Tell me, how have you guys actually brought innovation to life?
Okay, thank you for your question. Our company provides early wage access in Kazakhstan. We are the most prominent and I think the most fast-growing company in Kazakhstan. The last year we showed steady growth, I think 70 times in terms of revenue, in terms of active users, in terms of clients. And it happened because our company, actually this earned wage access service is new to the world and especially very innovative in Kazakhstan. Currently, all companies in Kazakhstan can pay salaries only once per month or twice per month. We provide ability to have access to salary on real time, day on day, hour on hour. And we also, due to fintech, due to bank's development, was able to 100% automate this process. That's why we are so fast growing. Also, I want to add that it was able, because of development of our Kazakhstani banking system. Just want to say that in Kazakhstan, fintech market is one of the fastest growing in Asia, and it happened because we have really good example of fintech company. It is called Kaspi. Probably you heard about this company. Case study of Kaspi development educated in Oxford. They show this case in Oxford University as a good example of fintech development. So it started probably 10 years ago. It was a small bank with market share less than 1%, and currently 65% of Kazakhstani population is active users of this bank. 80% of all transaction, P2P, B2B, B2G transaction goes through this bank. This bank developed a super app like WeChat, like Gojek, like Ant Group, and that's why they showed this steady growth. And they collaborated together with the government, and currently 90% of government services also can be taken online without any need to go to agency remotely. You can do it remotely. Even we in Kazakhstan have really good unique product like digital mortgage, when you can take mortgage within 2 hours online by submitting online application. Bank take all information needed from governmental databases. You sign remotely using electronic signature, even pledge done remotely. And ability to connect to this system allowed us to be so, I mean my company, to be so automated, to make instant payments, to collect information very quickly about customers, about clients, etc.
Thanks, Beibut. Ritesh, I'm going to come to you. Right, you've worn multiple hats. Should I call you Doc or Ritesh? Right. So let's take a bit of a holistic perspective,
Okay.
right? So fintechs, obviously, you know, the word fintechs, innovation sort of tend to go together, right? A number of financial institutions have leveraged or worked with fintechs to accelerate their so-called innovation journey or change journey or disruption journey, right? Give us a little bit of a framework on how have you seen this collaboration evolve and shift over the last sort of decade?
Sure. So let's start with the problem, right? Whether it's with the financial services or with the fintechs. With the financial services, the problem is because of the size, run the bank or change the bank, which means operating a bank itself is a challenge, as Hemant said rightly, around the infrastructure part. So the change takes time. But at the same time, let's talk about the positivity of the bank. The kind of responsibility, accountability, risk management, or if we go into the international banking business model, right, that can't be managed by fintechs. And the banks have got the positivity in terms of the customer as well as the books. And let's talk about the fintechs. The fintechs has two sides of the challenge. One, the cost of capital is significantly higher for them. And the second thing is the customer, the cost of customer acquisition, so which kills them as well. So now, yes, the fintechs are agile, nimble, but they don't have everything what it takes to move forward at a pace. And that's where the collaboration comes into the place. Let me give you an example about what we did in the US. We were struggling at HSBC. We were struggling with the lending, especially in the mortgages side. In the US, we brought in Woostify as a partner. Woostify has got a platform for the digital lending platform. And we worked with them, and they were the enabler for us in terms of the customer onboarding. And that works fabulous. Let's talk about the typical lending fintechs in the world today. And they are just the enablers. When you look into the books, who owns the books? It's the banks. Yesterday, we had a very interesting conversation as well on the similar topic. If we talk about the B2C and C2B space, why every night there are almost 5 to 6 trillion money which is getting transacted. Do we really think that the fintechs has got the capability to do so today? No. So it's a time where the fintechs realize, as well as the banks, that they need to collaborate because banks can't move faster at so-called innovation, but it has got its own problem because of the infrastructure issues, which they are transforming at this point of time, which they need to pick up the pace as well. So the way I'm seeing the collaboration in the last 10 years, there was a reluctance earlier that about who is going to own the customer. Now that reluctance is getting away. And then the lot more collaborative environment that we are seeing, and thanks to, if I talk about the open banking, if I take that liberty for a bit, when the open banking came into the picture, and there was a view from the banks that no, we are going to lose our customers. But over the period of time, it has changed slightly. I wouldn't say completely, slightly. So what open banking is, just for the audience as well, and I go a bit crude on this, open your dirty laundry or wash your dirty laundry in an open space. So banks has to open their APIs for the innovators to use the APIs to build the services for the consumers so that they can provide better customer services, better products to the consumers. But ultimately, when you look into, at the end, who is providing the services? It's the banks. So let's be realistic. Banks don't want to become a dump pipe as well over the period of time. So yes, there's a great collaboration between the fintechs and banks at this point of time to move forward and survive. And we can say, yes, we will see over the period of time that we don't need banks, we need banking. Let's be realistic, right? You would need somebody accountable and responsible to move your money, to deal with your money, which is regulated. And I don't want to put an analogy over here, otherwise I will go deeper into the cryptos as well, right? So, yes, there's a relevance of the bank. Yes, there's no other way for the banks apart from collaborating with the fintechs to use the fintechs, or I would say partner with fintechs to enable them to provide better customer services to the customers. And that's what the whole objective from the fintechs or the banks.
Okay, I'm gonna put on my panels, no clickbaity words, right? So we need banking, we don't need banks, the world is going cashless, all of that stuff. So none of that stuff. I'm gonna come to you, Hemant. Bring it to life for us. You're a banker.
So I think when we talk about innovation, I think if you ever look at it also from a banking, many of the banks, the way they're structured departmentally, right, also hinders how they move forward, right? So that's one great thing that neobanks are coming in and starting fresh. And you look at some banks, they are so in silos, sometimes the infrastructure is in silos. And this is what actually is hampering the fast pace of change, right? Because no one, right, each individual teams within the bank are talking different languages, different, rather than thinking bank. And when we talk about B2C or B2B, I'm saying all that was the past, right? Because now, if you actually look at the whole end-to-end supply chain, we should not be talking B2C or B2B. It should be all merged together from C to B to B to B to banks to governments, back to C on the other side. This is how we need to look at the whole supply chain if we want to really drive the change. And this is where, if the banks manage to do that, then you talk very smartly with the fintechs. And I think the other thing, Arjun, we talked about in the past was about platforms. How do we leverage the platform for the IT infrastructure to be able to manage all the innovation? Because fintechs are just going to continue, and innovation within what fintechs will provide to continue. But are banks ready to embrace that?
Okay, so I think, collaboration, fintechs, there's an intrinsic risk angle to all of this, right? Because at the end of the day, you're regulated, you are holding, large sums of money. You guys in this part of the world make copious amounts of money, right? So let me come to risk. And I guess I go to Victoria and DM to you after. I'll start with Victoria. Victoria, talk to us, because you're a fintech, but you're more than just a fintech, right? How do you guys look at risk associated with innovation? Sorry, closer.
So, there are certainly many risks involved when you try to be innovative, especially for startups. So one of the risks is markets. Research and development can be expensive, so there is no guarantee you're going to be successful, there's going to be a positive outcome. Another one, I would say, scalability. So there is a risk that, again, the startup or the company, they don't have the infrastructure. I would say regulatory challenges. So navigating in complex regulatory environments can be time-consuming and expensive in order to get the approval. So yeah, there are certainly many risks.
Are there some which trouble you more than others?
Sorry?
Are there some which worry you more than others in terms of risks?
Another challenges.
No. Yeah, which ones do you feel are higher risks in that list?
I will say scalability, of course. Again, if you are in a startup, or even if you are not a startup, I think there is a risk that you don't have the infrastructure. Another thing that I believe is a big challenge is a cultural resistance. So the organization or the people might not be happy to do the things in a new way. And of course, the regulations, especially if you are in different jurisdictions or you don't possess the knowledge.
DM, do you want to come into it?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about risk, right, there were risks earlier also, there is a risk right now, and due to the advanced technologies coming up into the picture with the with the new tools, right? There's always a factor of a risk, which has to be mitigated with the fraudulent aspect, which has to be balanced out. So when you're trying to adopt a new technologies into your systems, definitely the risk factor would definitely be there. But what we do at our company, right? Basically, we build a models which balance out biases models, which also explains what kind of underwriting would be happening at so-and-so levels, what kind of other levels of explainability for that particular model will be coming up as a picture. Like, the system would give a results of whatever predictions. You need to also kind of back with kind of what kind of parameters have gone into it. If you talk about a simple underwriting process or loan getting processed, right? So the kind of a thought process going into that particular underwriter would have some historical information onto that. But whereas the system which we built has gone through almost like 300 to 400 different parameters, aspecting different verticals to it. That's where the more constraints should be developed over there. That's what we always put up a picture of limitations into the kind of giving a verdicts while implementing into the live production systems.
No, I agree. So I think, you're talking about risk from at a product level. Is it going to be able to manage complexity? I'll give you a very simple answer, right? Or a simple question. My biggest risk with working with the fintech is, are they going to be around in 6 months' time?
Absolutely.
Right? So what's the answer to that question? I forget the product complexity and how cute you can make the process, right? My issue is, in a market currently where today, dry powder has dried up tremendously, or, the winter is colder than it's ever been, right? We have no visibility on the runways that these fintechs have. Most of the fintechs, with all due respect, have been built as the aircraft took off, and they've been building themselves, right? How do we know that you're not going to come crashing in 6 months' time, and I'm depending on you heavily to drive my innovation?
Definitely. I mean, whenever we build a product, right, or as a fintech, definitely you need to have a backing as a bankers like Hemant, right? Definitely you need to have a backing with the potential of lots of innovation pitching into the picture. When you have a collaborative system between the bankers and the fintech, then only the innovation will go forward. Just that thinking that the fintechs will drive a lot of digital aspect will never have. Like, we've built a lot of innovation products in the banks also, like the check clearance process or signature verification. We do talk about a lot of digital aspect right now, but there are lots of aspects which are still going on a traditional manner. Unless we solve those, rightly jumping onto the digital aspect, even if you talk about the present payment aspect, right, many things are still dependent on a paper aspect right now, even like checks or signatures, verification happening. In India itself, there are almost like every day 25 million checks getting processed. If a fintech is only depending on only processing these things, and suddenly the bank says that stop it off, that's a kind of a efficiency which gets more hampered to the bank rather than the fintech here, because fintech has a solution here. But whereas the banks, the checks are still going on. Of course, they're downfall market, but having an operation intensive to just process these particular checks there, a single check takes at least a minute to process. Whereas systems like ours would take even like hardly 20 checks in a second, probably like around 200 checks in a minute. So that's kind of a systems we have to collaboratively work with the banking industry so that we build a efficiency product, I would say.
Okay, Beibut, let me
I just want to add that I think it's important not only collaboration with banks. I think it's important also the knowledge. For example, in my company, the two of the co-founders are ex-bankers with several years of experience working for big banks like Citi, Deutsche Bank, all these big investment banks. So I think it's important to have the knowledge, but also the knowledge in the market. So for example, in my company, we specialize in emerging markets. So we partnered with many local banks, but also non-banks financial institutions. So I believe, well, they possess the market knowledge, right? So I think it's important also.
So Arjun, let me come back to you straight to answer your question, what you asked originally. That is the risk associated with the fintechs and their viability of the business model. Not a clickbaity terms, but the reality is most of the fintechs that we see in the market, they are trying to capitalize on the momentum as well as the market with the different business ideas. But the reality is the business model has to stand by itself, right? And the dependencies has to be very, very clear and understood. As an investor as well, like it's a very clear thesis for us that when we look into any businesses, and I can tell you, umpteen, from Bhavatex to Finance Peer to home loans, basic companies, again the portfolio companies, and the business model is very clear. They can sustain themselves over the period of time. And that's where it matters. It's not only about whether I can just bring the customer to you, but I can sustain myself over the period of time, and I can generate money, and I can retain the customer. So the business model is the key over here.
So I got it. So let me come to Beibut. Sustainability, business model, right? Those are the words. So from a Kazakh context, right? So to give us some successful fintech innovations, right? That have truly disrupted, I guess, the traditional financial services sector in your part of the world.
Thank you. I just want to add a bit about risk associated with fintech companies. We faced one regulatory risk because we presented new product on the Kazakhstani market, and there were a regulatory gap how to manage us. Do we need credit license or do not need this? And we had a long process. We hired professional international law firm in order to protect ourselves, in order to defend and to prove that we do not need any licenses, we do not need any capital requirements on financial requirements on our activities. It's also a big issue when you're some new on the market and no regulations at all. In Kazakhstan, most innovations are headed by banks. As I said, there is one big player. Actually, it is listed on London Stock Exchange with capitalization $18 billion US. And it motivated all other banks into also to develop their online services to be more digital. And currently in Kazakhstan, 95, I think, % of all transactions made by people, all payments made by people are cashless. Personally, me, do not carry cash for the last 3 years. I even forgot how cash looks like. And I think this is a big achievement of our country. And moreover, we saw banks as one of possible exit strategy because they are strategical partners. They open to cooperate. They can buy a minority share, they can buy a majority share, and also they can help with exits.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think let's stay with risks, and I'm going to actually come to you, Hemant, first, and then Victoria, if you want to add to that, right? So every morning I wake up, I have this bad habit, I still tend to read a lot, right? And AI is worth 10 trillion, embedded finance is worth 7 trillion, blockchain is worth 20 trillion, gardening is worth 50 trillion. I think we've got more trillions these days in reports than we can actually count. I have no idea how many trillions there are in the world to go around. And I think we're all getting sort of caught up in this. Innovation needs to be big. It needs to be mega. It needs to be, groundbreaking. It needs to be trillions, right? But, there's an old saying, which is you learn how to crawl before you learn how to walk, before you learn how to run, right? And I think that sort of still holds true thousands of years later. Talk a little bit about what I call small innovations, right? And how do you as banks, because I think banks should give themselves a bit of a pat on their back, right? That over the last, 2 millennia, you guys have incrementally innovated, right? And you guys don't get enough credit for that, right? But talk to us a little bit about what are you guys doing? And obviously this is not just about Investbank, but you have about 70 years of career in banking. So about 80. Right? So how have you innovated over the years in these small innovations?
So, I think what you're seeing now is a lot of product generation or proposition generation around lifestyles. You see that around the credit cards, yeah? A lot of innovation has happened really on the consumer side. Now you're seeing the bits on the SME, and then you still hopefully go into the wholesale banking. Still, the biggest challenges still remain, right? And what can you do for the SMEs? Because if you look at the SMEs, nobody's funding them, right? So what is the innovation around that, right? That can be, and this is something that we're looking at in terms of how do we do it. But the problem is, so as soon as you go into the SME, you hit those risk factors, the regulatory, the compliance, etc. and then the cost of customer acquisition versus the return. And this is where the banks then start shying away. So if we're looking forward, I think the fact that, for example, what we've done with the Fintech community, right, by setting up this collaborative approach, is getting people to talk to each other, right? So the bankers are actually talking to fintechs, right, and regulators, and bringing this together. That hasn't been so prevalent over the last few years, but now I see that we can all connect and talk to each other to see what is the best way forward. And I think that is happening, and that's going to get even more interesting, I think, as we go along.
Agreed. Victoria, you and me had a conversation, right, about
Yes.
small innovations. Do you want to share our conversation?
Yes. Yeah, I think my company is a perfect example of what we are doing in small innovations. So we might not focus in a service or in a product or a technology, but we are focusing on service. I think that is a small innovation. So we are optimizing our business operations. We pick markets where it's difficult to access, which is emerging markets, where we focus heavily in Africa. So we have several offices in Central West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Senegal, Ivory Coast. We are planning to expand in South Africa, and we just recently opened in East Africa, in Kenya as well. So we, yes, we focus in service, so we can settle super fast to customers. And again, these markets are difficult to access due to political instability, price volatility. So not everyone is willing to access these markets, right? So DKK is going there, and yeah, we are serving these organizations, these banks and financial institutions. We're helping them to be settled in different currencies. We also have like local partnerships, again, with banks and non-banks financial institutions, so that possess a market knowledge. But I think that we focus in service, so again, it's more like customer-centric rather than technology or new product, because there's plenty of FX companies, right? But I think we differentiate in the service that we provide to clients.
Excellent. So I've got a question for both of you, right? I think both of you are technologists, right? And I'm going to talk about technology-led innovation, right? So not process or customer, but although I don't see the differences because they all sort of lines are blurring, right? So we go from talking blockchain, crypto, to metaverse, Web3, to AI, generative AI, to decentralized finance. Half of those, actually, I don't even understand, right? I read, but I can't, right? In this world where there is more tools that are available to disrupt or innovate, how do organizations, banks, non-banks, I'm sure there are some non-banks sitting here, how do you ingest all this potential opportunity? And I use the word potential because I'm still waiting for AI to monetize itself, right? Or generative AI. What's your advice here? So how do I because it's actually brain numbing.
Yeah. So basically, just to continue the example of what Victoria was giving, right? Yes, definitely a lot of innovations and a lot of fintechs are happening through AI, blockchain, a lot of things, and the competition is super huge here. When you talk about the digital transformation in the banks, right, everyone is focusing on how to make the digitized in a more efficient and more better way. But there are small aspects, like the small things which turn out to be the huge impacts. Like when the customer is getting onboarded, people upload their documents or just scan it and then upload it. But the problem here was everyone was trying to solve how should I make more extraction to be more better. But the problem here was still the people were clicking on the drop down, upload a form, or drop down, this is my ID proof, this is my photograph, this is my signature. We have just changed a small aspect here. Being an AI company, we said, why do you have to drag and drop? Why don't we automate this particular process? Because here the manual guy is again looking at it, whether you have uploaded the right document or not. We just said that we'll build a classifier here. Upload any document you have, we will figure out what is missing out of it. Like upload a forms, upload your ID proof, upload your signatures, upload anything out of it. Because ultimately you are here to provide the documents as an ease of the process. Upload, and the next page, once the processing happens, we just said signature is missing. Upload the signature. That's the kind of a small aspects. People are more focused on digitizing, but nobody was focusing on the small aspect where, because this is where the banking and the fintechs have to understand the process flows, the knowledge, what the person needs, what the steps process, rather than thinking that, okay, this is my end output. Okay, what's the use case here? I just have to kind of automate the process. How do I automate it? I just have to digitize, because people are submitting the papers now, I have to digitize it. But there are small aspects, small steps which make the whole efficiency more smoother, and definitely it adds a value for the customer, adds a value for the banker or the fintechs, right? Because these small steps are the kind of a niche points where the fintech should think to make sure that they stand out of the competition.
So I would start with, let's not get bogged down with the technology, right? It's the job of the media to glorify things.
Yeah, but no, but I challenge you. We do get bogged down by technology, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. But what I'm saying, let's not get bogged down with the technology, and let's give a round of applause to the banks, right? What they have done in the last 20 years. And the kind of innovation that they have done, it's phenomenal and unbelievable, right? We are talking about the data center. If I talk about my own example from the days of when I was leading the future of payments at Visa, 2010, 100 million transactions used to be on a Black Friday. Today, 100 million transactions are nothing, right? The data center, one change in the BI used to take, the data take-on activity could take months. Now, it is a matter of minutes, right? So yes, the technology has enabled us to do things faster and better. So it's all about the operational efficiency. That's what we need to look into and getting better day by day. Let's talk about the blockchain or the metaverse or the AI or any other technology. AI, we have been using AI for decades.
So 5 decades,
right?
if not longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the fraud, right? For decades. Now we have glorified it, right? Now it is, everybody wants to use AI for every answer, every question that they have. So that's where the problem is. At the same time, let's talk about the metaverse. What happened in the banking in the metaverse, right? People want to utilize metaverse for the banking. Today, do we have a real use case? I have done 6 different use cases across the worldwide with the different banks. And I can tell you what we are doing. One is the gamification, where we are enlightening customer for the products that they already have. The second is basically creating a gallery of the products. Come on, do we really need to do that? No, but let's look into from other perspective. The banks need to innovate. There's a perception that you need to innovate. It means you need to utilize the latest technology, and you need to be on top of it. Let's look into HSBC or JP Morgan or anybody else. As soon as the metaverse was on, we need to innovate. We need to put a gallery out there. Does it solve any purpose? No. But at the same time, but that is to satisfy the need of the market. But at the same time, banks are already innovating. In terms of the blockchain, yes, we have contracts running for years, right? But I would say, like, let's not create such a hype in the market about the 13 trillion or 15 trillion or 50 trillion economy in a specific technology. Let's give applause to bank in terms of what they are doing by small innovation and by disrupting themselves day in and day out in a difficult environment that they are, especially in the silos and the different departments that they work with.
Okay, no, so great. But my favorite example of innovation is, you know, when the metaverse came around, we started seeing a number of these branches being opened in the metaverse. And my logic was, hold on, people don't want to go to your branches in the real world. Now you want them to go in the artificial world. But in any case, I would not know better. Gentlemen and lady, we have 3.5 minutes. I've got one question, 30 seconds for all of you, right? In your organization, how do you engender this attitude and behavior to constantly, if I may say, improve, right, or innovate? What do you do?
Okay. First of all, we hire people from top-tier companies which has this culture of innovation, of development, etc. Secondly, we hold meetings every month. We collect data from our customers. Firstly, on a daily basis, we have data analysts who analyze this data. Also, we have connection with clients, and we have customer development, and we discuss it on a weekly basis, and we make changes. For example, we change commercial part not so far ago. We have a big backlog of tasks what we want to develop due to our good culture of innovation. And also we try to participate all significant forums and in Kazakhstan and in Central Asia, and came here, for example, in order to be on the edge of technologies. Thank you.
It's the culture. Where does the culture come from? It has to come from the top. The CEO has to be the driver. He has to be engaged, and as long as he sets the vision correctly, it will flow within the organization, and you would need to make the changes, right, which will be tough, but that's how innovations will pick up a lot more rapidly, and obviously education around that.
Interesting. Victoria.
No, just very simple. I would say that it's important to understand the market. What are the market trends? I was looking if there is new technologies or new softwares. Me personally, I use a lot of softwares to self-source my leads, and I think that's quite innovative. You know, everyone is relying on perhaps, finding the leads in an event or going to a party and networking. I personally spend a lot of my time researching what are the trends with the softwares, how, yes.
Ritesh.
It's all about people.
Isn't it always?
It's been always, right? But unfortunately, what we have done, or when we say what we have done, it's basically the organizations have done over the period of time, they have built up a very not so good culture, I would say, right? What happened, like the culture that is required in the organization where people can walk in as themselves. They don't need to put a facade, right? We need a culture where it's more empathetic. Again, it is not something that you can buy from a consulting company, or not any other company can come and build the culture. It grows within. So you need to build that environment. And the responsibility lies on each individual, and it starts from the top. At the same time, it's a deep listening skills, right? Unfortunately, because of the notification, because of the social media and everything else, we become much more impatient. We don't have time or patience to listen to people. And in corporates, that's been the culture for a long time. So at least give that opportunity for the people by deep listening skills as well. So you can instill these three things in a culture. That's what I see as a basic, as a human being, that the deep listening skills, empathetic culture, and people can bring themselves to the work. And you'll see the organization is flourishing with the innovation and the change.
I think giving the flexibility and the freedom for people to experiment more, that's where you, as a top tier management, right, you should always encourage for people to experiment more, and then understand whether the particular product has been met the end use case or not, rather than building it for the curiosity, rather than building for the kind of a scope what the given aspect has been given by the particular customer or not. But ultimately think from an industry perspective, see whether the market fit for the product market fit is really available or not. I think these are the major aspects which the company or the culture has to be gone through that. So flexibility is more important, and experimenting is very important for that.
Excellent. Guys, we're out of time. I want to thank Beibut, Hemant, Victoria, Ritesh, and DM, or as I've abbreviated your name. You can take it back with you. Thank you all for sort of staying in. I hope you were able to sort of take a few lessons. I think for me, the biggest learning, I think the 2 points here is, I think banks do deserve a bit of kudos for the work that they've done. They get a lot of beating unnecessarily on the lack of innovation. And I think the second bit is, I think small innovations make as much a difference as anything else. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. joining us. Very good. We're into the last stage of today. Staying with the embedded finance theme, we're going to be looking at strategy, the strategy of building a successful business geared and enabled by embedded finance. And then we'll be closing off later on with some more sessions just to sort of set the scene on some of the things that have been learned through the day.